this is where y'all's YouTube comments pay off, because somebody asked me something I felt like was pretty significant, and I can see how it would be kind of baffling, right? If you haven't had this recognition I talk about in some of my other videos, it would be pretty hard for the mind to kind of grasp this, and it's still going to be hard to grasp it unless you have the recognition and you've set in that gap and realized it. You may still have a but what if or how's this. But somebody asked me, how is it that consciousness is the whole, like this is all one consciousness, right? Yet it appears that I have a separate consciousness within my head that's separate from the consciousness, if this is all one, like everything behind me, everything in this room, the air, it's just lesser or more degrees of the same one phenomenon, which is consciousness, like some of my other videos talk about. How would it be I appear to have my own experience and it not be separate from this outside consciousness that's one, right? So here we go. I'm going to attempt to give an analogy on this, and it may not work all the way. You might have to have this recognition, but maybe it can kind of soothe the thinking mind a little bit and give it something to see forward to. I don't want to say look, because there's a difference between looking and seeing. Like, I can't say some of my other videos because I haven't made that one yet, but I will. There's a difference between seeing and looking, so. Anyway, it's like how if I were to step outside of this room and go outside, you could say I'm in the one open space, like all of the space that's outside, right? Because in this kitchen, it appears that I'm separate from the outside space, the space that's outside. So I open the door, I step outside, and I'm in like outer space. As funny as that sounds, but I'm in the one space, open space, right? And then you build these walls, and you build the ceiling, put the floor there, but the floor's already there. Just wanted to look cool. And it appears as if this space in here is separate from the space outside. And it is in a way, right? Because you have these walls and the ceiling and the floor, and it's kind of boxed in. But you can recognize how as soon as you tear these walls down and take the roof off, it's back to the one open space. All while it was always still pretty much the same space that's outside. It's just kind of boxed in a way. You have to take your human body as kind of like the walls and the ceiling and the floor, which in this analogy, keep in mind, everything is one, all is whole, all is consciousness in that way, just lesser or more degrees of it, right? So even the walls, the floor, the ceiling, consciousness, just lesser or more degrees of the same one phenomenon. So the body, which itself, these cells, all of that, that's conscious in a way. It's just consciousness in a different form, right? So you have to look at your body as the walls and the ceiling in this analogy, right? So even though you have your own little like roof and ceiling, walls, whatever you want to call it, and it appears you have this space within you that is separate from the outside space, and it is, but it ain't, and it never was. So I don't know, it's kind of making me laugh because it is very paradoxical, and unless you recognize it, I'm sure someone's still going to ask me, but how, what? It's because you're in your mind, you're thinking about it. As long as you're thinking about this topic or you're thinking about the concept of this, you're not going to grasp it because reality doesn't fit into a conceptual frame. And this is something else I'm playing with, but I look at it kind of like water in a sense, right? You have people ask, is water wet? And I know I say water weird, but I don't care. Water, whatever. But technically, it's not, because one particle of water is not wet. You have to have an emergence. Once more than one come together, you develop water. And that water, can it be froze into a solid, can be boiled, anything, right? So you just kind of have this pattern in nature of everything as a whole being because of a combined joint, right? Like that sounds weird. Like I haven't thought about this enough to really explain it that well. But I just feel like every atom, every cell, every bit and piece, fabric of reality, it's like that emergence of how you get water, and that water, whatever the fuck, in that way. So even though it all appears separate, like you're having your own individual thing, it's all one consciousness. It's all the same. You might feel like a raindrop, but this is the same puddle. That was whack. I'll never say that again. But yeah. So if it seems trippy how consciousness would be one in the whole, yet you have your own experience, it's because it is trippy. You have this brain and this body that's kind of not even separate from the outside, but captured this consciousness in a way to give it an opportunity of a subjective experience, right? Like Bill Hicks would say, this is all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. What do you think he meant? Because until you see that through that concept of Chuck, or who you think you are, you're going to fear death and all these things. At the core, it's just you're an imagination of yourself in that way. Because this is a whole. It's one. The self. So, I hope that satisfied the mind in some way possible that you could through words. And if not, just leave another comment and I'll make another video. So, see you guys later.